I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Shalom. I appreciate that. A couple announcements. For those of you that may not have heard this, the Republican Committee are selling raffle tickets for half a beef for $10. It's coming out of Blacksville, I think it is. Everybody said, just rants and raves about how good the meat is. And once you win, you can call them and tell them how you want the beef cut up. So anything to add to that, Jim or Linda? Linda has tickets back there. It's a great deal. All the money goes towards the Republican Party to help guys like me and Mike and anybody that's running for office. So please consider that. That's a great deal for half a beef for $10. Greg, tell us about the golf tourney. He took my flyer your golf tourney in September.
September 20th, Preston Country Club. $85 per person. If you want signs, we can give you signs, 200 and 500. That's about it.
Goes to a good cause. It's a good tournament.
Sometimes start at 1 o'clock.
I've been there. Greg runs a good tournament. He and his folks are very organized. So if you enjoy golf or you just enjoy getting out with a bunch of derelicts like me, please try to make it. So again, thank you, Greg. There will be a car show. The East Fairmont Foundation is going to have the car show up at Kingmont. It's August 23rd from 10 to 5, I think, something like that. A lot of activities, beautiful cars, there's music, there's food. And it's growing every year. I help Tyler McCutcheon Brothers, they kind of sponsor that. We help them get some money from fairs and festivals. It's on its way. And it's growing each year, so let's support that. If you get a chance, slip up there, August 23rd, it's a Saturday, and help. All that goes to the East Fairmont Foundation. It's a good deal. What else do I have here? This morning, the Dow was up 118, 44,354. The S&P was up 725 at 6332.75. NASDAQ was up 27 at 23,156. Gold was hot. Gold was up at 34.1680, and oil was at 65.99, which seems to be a pretty good little sweet spot. We're going to talk a little bit more about oil here in a little bit. So, every now and again we hear about what's going on with the election integrity and what's going on with the vote count. We have this many people registered, this many people voted, and it's coming from the federal level down. But we have a gentleman with me, a friend of mine, Ed Fisher. Ed Fisher is all about election integrity. He does a lot of analysis. He and Ed Bosco and a couple other folks locally here are working on that and try to keep us up to snuff with what's going on. And it's kind of one of those deals where you see something, say something, and that's what he's doing. So I'm going to get Ed 4 or 5 minutes, get up here and give us a brief synopsis, try to have Ed back. But he's going to bring us up to date in the legislature on September 8th. That's a big deal for us. So Ed, come on up here and give us a quick one. Give him a warm welcome, folks.
Thank you, sir. All right, it's a pleasure to be here again. I spoke here about a year ago or something like that. Right. I'm not going to speak at length today, but I want to come back maybe in September, okay, to go into detail. I just wanted to update this group. We, in Citizens for West Virginia Election Integrity, we have a 3-point plan to try to help election integrity in West Virginia. So one of the points is registration. Okay, we have to. That's where fraud starts. So we have to clean up our registration system. And West Virginia is better than other states. Okay, but we as citizens have to really push for this, make sure we're cleaning things up, so that nobody has a registration that they can manipulate. Okay, so in furtherance of that, so the other two parts are auditing. Okay, we had a bill that passed the Senate this past year, but it didn't get into the House for a vote, and that is to allow put all the ballot images on the Secretary of State website. Okay, so the idea is that today it's legal for you to take a picture of your ballot before you put it in the machine. Okay, so if you have that, and then you also have all the vote totals on the Secretary of State website, that's available today by precinct. If you have the ballot images, any citizen can perform an audit on the election precinct by precinct. You could just total up what's in the ballot images and compare it to what the total is on the Secretary of State website, and that would be then any citizen could have that power to do that audit. And that would be a strong deterrent for any monkey business as well. And then the third part of it is to, we want complete transparency in tabulation. And we also want to support decentralization of tabulation. Back when most of us grew up, that was all decentralized in the precinct, and so you had lots of eyes on all the tabulation. So we'd like to see that again in this country. And there's a lot happening at the national level right now too, as to what's been happening, in elections over the past few years. With the machine companies, Smartmatic and Dominion and ES&S. Okay, so the thing I wanted to just let you know of today is we are bringing a system to West Virginia called Check My Vote. Okay, this system was developed in Michigan, and then it was also instituted in Ohio and Tennessee. So we will be the fourth state with this system. What this system does is take our registration, our voter rolls, and it conducts analyses on that to identify any place where you have duplicate registrations, multiple people at your address. So you can see, you can put your address in, you can see exactly who voted in the past several elections at your address or anyone around you, okay? You have the power to do that. So this is gonna be a crowdsourcing type application where all citizens can get involved in this. So that website is now up and running. We are in a testing phase, okay? So we're gonna be testing our group throughout August, and then we're gonna be introducing by a demonstration of the guy who actually created this in Michigan. We're gonna be introducing this to our election integrity caucus, and Phil will be there. But we've also invited our congressional representatives, the governor, and some county clerks as well. This is gonna be a really good help for county clerks as well, because we're gonna have a county clerk workstation so they can see their county, they can see all the issues. So it ranks the counties as to, who's really in good shape on registration and, who needs more work. So I just wanted to introduce that today. We'll publish that URL, that website when we meet with the Election Integrity Caucus on September 8th at the interims. So I'll come back at some point. We're gonna do a rollout of this in West Virginia with podcasts and press releases and things like that when we're comfortable. Because right now we have to work on our infrastructure to make sure we're ready for that, because we want to get a lot of people involved. And we'll probably get some other organizations, grassroots organizations involved as well. So I'll come back and we'll do a little demonstration here, probably September, October timeframe when we're ready to do it. Because we don't want to make mistakes. We want to do it right, okay, and not be too aggressive on that. So that means we have to do our testing, and we need to get counsel from people like Phil and other folks as to how to do the rollout, right? Because once it gets up there, anybody can access it, and it needs to work right. Okay, that's all I wanted to say today.
That'd be good. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. I wanted to tag on a few things of what he said and how important it is. We joke about West Virginia, and we joke about, McDowell County, Mingo County, and Logan County, and the corruption and so forth in some of the elections. Make no question about it, as you all know here in Marion County, local elections matter. We're gaining a little bit with our House of Delegates and our representation, and we're also gaining a little bit with the school board, and we're getting our ideas and the awareness out there. That's a big part of it. You all remember here in the last probably 6 or 8 years, we've had a couple elections, local elections, that were determined by a flip of the coin type thing. A couple votes here or there make a difference. So make no mistake about it, there are people that watch this on this side of the conversation as closely as Ed is watching it over here, and they're saying, we'll hold this little district up here to the last, till we see how the vote count kind of goes, and then we'll throw it in there and see if we can skew it a bit. It's happened quite a lot. You may remember a couple years ago, there was a bill that went around, we kicked it around, it ended up, we got some clarification on it and was implemented and much better, but there were questions on the ballot that looked to be like, if you said yes, it actually was a no.
Yeah.
You all saw that. Well, we addressed that. It has to be yes means yes and no means, yes is for, no is against, period. But that was utilized throughout the state in a lot of local elections, and people, particularly some levies, were passed because people thought, I'm voting against it, when in fact they were voting for it. So that's a really big deal.
Phil, does the group know that we passed two significant election integrity measures this year? So one was prohibiting ranked choice voting. Okay, I hope everybody.
Hang on a second. Ranked choice voting, everybody know what that is? Ranked choice voting is you've got 4 candidates, you put it out there, and then everybody gets to vote, then they do away with one, then they do it again. And ultimately, if you're not careful, if you're not watching how it can be done, the best candidate can get kicked out in the first round, and then and you get the lesser of 2.
Right.
Thomas and I were talking a while ago about Operation Chaos. I mentioned this a lot, and you may or may not know it. In the primary next year, there's gonna be like, the independents, you have to say, I'm either Republican or Democrat, I can't come in as an independent and vote either way. And some people are like, well, and me personally, I'm not sure how it's gonna work out. I know how I'd like it to work out, but years ago, when Rush Limbaugh was running, he talked about Operation Chaos. And what it allowed certain independent groups to do, and Ed's probably more well versed on this than anybody in the state, was that they would come in and say, I'm an independent, I'd like a Republican ballot. And these 2 guys are my 2 Republican candidates. I'm not gonna pick on them too much, but Salah is the best of the 2. Thomas is the lesser of the 2. Thomas can be beat, Salah cannot be beat as a Democrat. So the independents would come in and vote for him. And they'd get him through the primary, he'd beat the best candidate, so a lesser qualified Republican candidate went up against a Democrat, and it kind of set the stage for, that sort of thing. So that was Operation Chaos. They kind of addressed that, and we're trying to work against that, make sure it not happen. We'll see what happens in the primary, but that's something that we're saying, if you're either with us or you're against us. And right now with Trump and the momentum he has and what's going on and what he's accomplished in 6 months, we're thinking we can accentuate that and make it happen for the Republican Party. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that sort of thing.
And then the second thing that we passed, everybody should be aware of, is photo ID, okay, for voting. Okay, so those are the 2, in my opinion, those are the 2 major things we got done. There are probably 8 to 10 bills that were passed, but
Think about the photo ID though. It brings up a great point. I was in judiciary and we were talking about it, and I stood up in caucus and I said, if you don't want photo ID, you're trying to skew the system. You're trying to beat the system. You walk in and you say, hey, I'm Phil Mallow, here's my ID. You're not saying I'm Ed Fisher when you're really Phil Mallow. I mean, what's the big deal with that? Unless you're trying to throw the election the wrong way or vote in 3 or 4 different precincts or senatorial districts, what's wrong with having an ID? Because you all have seen on Facebook all the things you have to have an ID for, a photo ID for, as opposed to the thing that for election. And that's just silly. That's just silly and it's fraudulent. So kudos to guys like Ed and folks in here who take notice. It's about awareness.
Hey, Phil,
Yes.
excuse me,
Sure.
when you stood up in the caucus and said what you said, what did the opposition say?
Nothing.
No,
They know it's
They didn't have
wrong.
an answer for.
They're never ever going to go on video or on record saying that, hey, we're now in closed quarters. They may have their own little press and say, well, you're disenfranchising the people that don't know how to get it. Well, let me tell you what. You get that person that's being disenfranchised. You say, here's your government assistance check, but you got to have a photo ID to get it. I will guarantee you they'll get that photo ID like that. So it's a foregone conclusion. It's one of those things that's kind of hidden. If I don't talk about it, I can still do it. But we're trying to bring it to light through that program and many, many others. Thank you for that, Ed.
Yeah.
We heard a story one time. Somebody said that they were complaining about the Republicans were putting signs up everywhere. And the guy told the Republican candidates in a small forum, he said, this is ridiculous. He said, you have signs everywhere. He said, one of the Republican candidates is putting signs everywhere. He says, he's got 15 along the front of the graveyard. He said, that's because they all voted Democrat last time. and we laugh about it, but historically in West Virginia, there was a lot of that going on. So we're going to make that a bit better, and awareness is going to change everything. All right, starting down at the national level. I'm going blind here. What does everybody think about Mr. Mandani? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Mr. Zoran Mandani and socialism.
We might get our congressional seat back.
We might get our congressional seat back, exactly. What do we know about socialism? Because he's all about that. What is socialism? If you had like one or two sentences, and I know one particularly, two particularly that Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is great until you run out of somebody else's money. And I think the other statement is it's from each according to his means to each according to their needs. So the rich people and the people that work have to take from them and give to the people that need or don't work. Well, what happens is like who determines who has to go to work? If Salah goes to work every day and pays his taxes and pays into the system, and I sit at home and I go to all my kids' ball games and I hang out and I go fishing and I go turkey hunting and all that, and all of a sudden the government who's in charge in this case says, Salah, you need to work harder. You need to make more money because this guy over here is suffering. Eventually, you know what he says? I'm going to go over there on that side of the conversation. And it just keeps getting worse. It's never ever worked anywhere they've tried it. And it's the first step towards what? Communism. Anybody that knows anything about historic situations throughout Eastern Europe and so on, that's what they did. They came in, they took over, we're going to do this for the benefit of everybody. They don't. They have oligarchs. They take over the wealth. And the next thing you know, the people are paying for it long term. The people will push down sometimes and say, look about Cuba. People in Cuba are getting on a makeshift raft to try to get to Florida. That should tell you a bit about what they're living under, and yet people will say, well, you know, there's socialism in Cuba. It's all crap.
It's currently on what Oregon government.
Sure. Well, think about it. We have to really be aware of this guy because he's articulate, he's charismatic, and he says a lot of things that appeal to a lot of people because there's a lot of people out there, and you've heard me say this before. My dad used to say all the time, when there's more people riding the wagon than there are pulling the wagon will stop. Well, you get in New York and you get up there where all these people are homeless, and all they do is sit around and wait on that government assistance check. Guess how many of them will vote for this clown?
Pocahontas.
What's that?
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas just stood up last night and this morning, and she said, "This is Elizabeth
Can't
Warren."
stand up.
Yeah, she said, "This is our guy." Dead.
So Phil, just an anecdote from my personal life. So 2 years ago, I was in a discussion with my son. My son was early 30s. I mean, this is the issue we all need to be aware of. So he said, he thought that socialism is good. Okay, so it's taken me an effort like 2 to 3 years now. Every day, I talk to him every day, and you can't just beat somebody over the head. You have to convince him over a period of time. So finally, he understands that that's not a good thing. So I say that because a lot of the kids are naive about socialism and communism.
Hold on a second. They're not naive. They're being what? Being brainwashed in college. If you don't believe what he just said is true, go to a dinner someplace, which I have done, him and I. Go to the dinner at the university with a bunch of university professors and like their RAs and some of the that sort of. Let me tell you what, they believe all that crap. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's not. So basically, it's hard to do. You need to be very aware of these kids, okay? That they have been.
Have you guys ever heard the story? I maybe have told this, and if I'm being redundant, I apologize. A young lady goes to college. Her mom and dad are very conservative, Republican. The young lady goes to college, and she comes back and she says, I kind of like socialism. I kind of think it's a good thing. And shortly thereafter, she's saying, but I have a really good close friend that's not doing so well in psychology class. She's failing psychology class, and she needs that for her degree. And her dad said, well, how are you doing in psychology? She said, I'm an A student. He said, well, let's tell you what. She said, when you go back to college, go to your professor and say, hey, I have an A, she's failing, give her 50% of my grade to bring her up, and we can both pass the course. And the young lady said, the hell with that. She said, I worked hard for it, and I'm going to keep my A. He said, welcome to the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we're talking about. If you're not careful, there's enough people come in incrementally, they'll take a penny, then they want 2 pennies, then they want 3 pennies. Anybody, and well, hang on, we'll go to the state, but the situation is that if you're not productive, you're going backwards. And we've got to demand, and we were talking earlier, you've got to demand that people get paid on their effort and their merit. You just can't give them free rides. He's for no rent, rent-free in New York City. Now, the people that own these big skyride, I guess, tenant building, what do you call them? They're saying, how do we pay for our buildings if nobody pays us rent? And then there's business people saying, well, wait a minute. You're giving this floor to residential rent-free. I'm up here and I'm business, I'm an attorney, but I have to pay rent. And they're gonna jack my rent up to subsidize these people. Conversations are ongoing, and hopefully, somebody will come in and say, this is crazy, it's never worked. Cuba, China, Vietnam, they've all tried it, it's not working, it always ends up going back to capitalism. Yes, Lon?
Even here in the United States, we tried it. The first colony, Jamestown, when
I got that on my notes. That's the first.
I'm ahead of you.
You are. That's the first thing that happened in the United States, first instance of socialism.
Silver Road, Jack.
We'll all work together.
Jack.
And go ahead, so I'll tell them what
Jack.
happened. I got it.
I got it right here.
So, Britain tried to try it here in Jamestown and failed miserably. They tried putting all their farms and things together, like anything that you harvested together, and they tried sharing all their money, and ended up just disappearing. A lot of people don't even know what happened.
Well, what
disappeared
what
off the
happened?
map.
What happened? What do you think happened? We told everybody, here's your 18 acres, here's your 18 acres, Shelley, here's your 18 acres, Gary, here's your 18 acres, Jack. You all work and farm and so forth. We're gonna bring it all together and we'll split up the stuff in the fall. What do you think happened?
I'm assuming greed.
Well, now, Shelley worked real hard, Gary worked a bit, and Jack didn't do anything. So Jack showed up for his share of the third, and the other two said, wait a minute. You know, well, you were out hunting and fishing, we were plowing and planting the seed and fertilizing the fish and all that sort of thing. So, it failed miserably. So we're back to capitalism. Excuse me. Okay, he's rent-free. He wants to do away with the police. Yeah.
You know, I heard a group of guys talking about that very thing on the American News Network or something. I was looking to the channel, happened to land on this. They said, yes, all the socialists want to do away with the police.
Sure.
Why? Oh, why? Then they bring in their federal police, which they establish. And who's the federal police answer to? Them. That's the way they want to, that's why they want to do away with the
Sure.
police.
Just an afterthought of what he just said. Who announced last night that Don't Straighten Up Your City were coming in and taking it over? Trump just said because the guy from the Doge Committee tried to protect that woman that was being carjacked in it, and they beat the tar out of her. Well, Trump said, wait a minute, now you got one of my guys, and you can't control your streets, crime is rampant, so guess what's going to happen? If you don't get this stuff squared away, we're coming down and we're going to take care of that. Good point, good point. Also, you know, we talk about the steps towards socialism and communism. They teach that, and then they want to get your guns from you. Anybody that's in a communist country will say, the first thing they did was what? Took your guns. And when you have no guns, there's no way to push back or fight back, and the next thing you know, we're going to have a problem. What else do you want to do away with? SRG. Everybody remember what SRG was? That guy walked in to the NFL building and shot everybody. Y'all see that? I walked in, okay, he kind of just walked in, he had some kind of encephalitis type situation, and he blamed the NFL, and he was going to go in, he shot a bunch of people, shot an off-duty police officer, but this strategic response group, the SRG, that he wants to do away with that. And he says, when a situation like that, instead of sending the SRG in and funding them, he wants to send, what does it Shelley say? Social work. He wants to send in a social worker. Now, you've got a young lady who's used to working with, you know, less fortunate folks and say, hey, there's a guy in there with a gun, go see what you can do. That's crap. That is absolute crap. So this guy's, he wants to do away with something else. He's really against,
Personal property.
what's that?
Personal property.
Personal
You don't own
property.
nothing.
He wants to all be owned by someone that would dictate, you have 100 acres, I'm gonna take it from you and give everybody 10.
Well, that's straight communism.
I mean, think about it. That's, how about, he wants to do away with prisons. He wants to do away with prisons. They're talking about Riker Island. he is using that as a campaign fodder. They're gonna do away with that.
Especially now.
But did you hear this morning that we're gonna have another Alcatraz Alley? Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Thank you. Correct me at any time, guys, because I go to roll up here. My mouth ahead of my head. Alligator Alcatraz, you're gonna do another one in Okeechobee, Florida. Because they have this big area, and you know what? Hey, I'm gonna break the law.
They're gonna have another one
Texas.
too.
What's that?
Raceway Alley or, in
Indiana?
Indiana? Oh, yeah, they got another one planned. It's
Well,
on-
here's the thing about it, and we'll talk a little bit more about the regional jail bills. Fact of the matter is that you can't let them into the country and say, hey, here's your paperwork, come back in the next 9 years for your hearing. Because once they're lost, they're like cockroaches. I hate to say that, but they're out there and you will never find them. And they don't come back, how do you track them down?
Or you got things covered.
Yeah, you will. Okay, we'll move on. How about civil asset forfeiture? You've got something, and I want it, and I think that, I'm gonna say, Jim, you've got $100,000, I'm aware of you having it at home. I think you're running drugs out of your house. So I go in, I hit his house, I take his $100,000, civil asset forfeiture. There's even a bill down in the state legislature about that. I think I told you guys about the Chinese guy they caught on Route 81 for $52,000. They wanted to confiscate his money. They wanted to say that he'd done it, the money was ill-gotten gains. And he was trying to tell them, the Chinese, "Give my money, my money." And he followed them to the police. They gave him a ticket. He followed them to the police station and said, "That's my money." Well, as luck would have it, he was trying to tell them they couldn't speak Chinese, he couldn't speak English. Eventually he got a translator in there. He had receipts from Atlantic City where he won $52,000. That was his money to bring the rest of his family over in a legal means to the United States. So that was a big battle going on. He got his money back, but it's still something in the state legislature. How about he wants to do away with ICE? He wants to do away with it. You see how these things are so attractive to the people that are they're not productive. They're just kind of like out there. I hate to say this, but they're kind of like societal parasites. They're going to live off what you guys do. You heard me say before, people say, well, ha ha ha, he's beating the system. No, he's not, he's beating us. He or she is beating us. And we've got to figure out a way, because as you get older and all of a sudden you lose a bit of a benefit, you're like, why am I losing my benefit? Because we're giving it to people that never put anything into the system. Big problem, big problem. How
Why
about-
does he wanna get rid of ICE, Phil?
He wants them,
The Democrats wanna keep those
Sure.
illegal aliens here and make them voters.
yeah, but even if they're not voters, what's the bigger thing, Thomas? What's the bigger thing about having
Census.
housing? What else?
Census.
The census, when the census comes out, their representation in Congress, districts go up, because now you went from 15,000 people to 21,000 people, and guess what? You're required to have another representative because of the population. Big deal.
Wage suppression as well.
Sure. How about this? What did you hear from Mr. Trump this morning about, well, actually, I got an email yesterday, about pharmaceuticals.
He gave them so many days, didn't
You give him so many days, you give him an extension.
Yeah.
But right now, what's happening with pharmaceuticals? Why are we paying such a high amount?
Other countries aren't.
What's that?
Other countries aren't.
Other countries are not, and they're jacking it up on us, so we can subsidize and pay a whole lot to offset what they're paying in other countries. Well, Trump got someone on it, and he found out that, like, for example, we're paying $100 over here in the United States, and it's like $13 over in some country in Europe. And he said, wait a minute, if you're gonna do that to us, then guess what's gonna happen? I'm going to like jack your tariff up to where it has to be comparable. You know what? I'm for that, because why should we pay much, much more here because we've worked hard, saved, lived within our means, and some other foreign country gets the same medication for far less? That's a good deal. I like
I
that.
was in Mexico a few years ago, and down there you can buy antibiotics over the counter. And I thought, I think I'll buy some while I'm down here. And you know where they were made at? Right on the bottle of Stanton, New Jersey. And they're way cheaper than what we pay for here.
We've lost visibility. You hear the word a lot, transparency. Things like that are happening, and this person puts in one of the real, and it's, I hate to say it, but off into another tangent, but like, when you do away with earmarks on a bill, when you write a bill at the federal level and Salah brings a bill to us and he wants to build a bridge, and then Thomas says, well, yeah, I'll vote for that, but I want to put this in here about the pharmaceuticals from New Jersey being sold in Mexico. And the real thing is, we really need this bridge, but he's gonna have that in earmarked in that bill, and if people unknowingly vote for the bridge bill, and that happens. So in West Virginia, they don't earmark, it's one subject matter, and a lot of states are going to that because of what's happened incidentally. What's happening in, fair pricing was one of the things Trump talked about. He talked about mail order discount. He's saying you gotta make that available to people. If there's a significant savings, you gotta make mail order discount to everybody for every drug. One of the things that really gets everybody upset is that you order a drug, Greg probably knows more about the drugs than anybody in here. I mean, and from his vocation.
He's probably a drug addict.
Well, probably June knows a lot about drugs. She knows a lot about drugs from living with Greg, so, but at any rate, the fact of the matter is that, you know, you can get a medication, and they, like at UPS, our benefits would pay for this drug. But if you wanted the brand name, you had to pay above and beyond that amount. Well, sometimes you get it, and it was almost the exact same box, made by AstraZeneca, made by Pfizer, made in New Jersey. So people are saying, wait a minute, I'm buying almost the same product, and I'm paying 3 times as much because it's brand name. So he's gonna attack that as well. He wants favored nation. He wants favored nation classification. If you're giving some other country a better deal on pharmaceuticals, he wants that for us. That's important, and the more we know about it, the more you ask questions about it, the better off we'll be. He wants a better trade policy. Make no mistake about it, based on the email I got yesterday morning and what's coming out last night, he's saying to these countries and to these drug companies that are over in the Netherlands and there's some in Israel, he's saying to them, if you're gonna give us this, you're gonna hit us with these high prices, we're gonna hit you harder on your tariffs. And guess what? Anybody hear what Apple did this morning?
Yeah, 100 million,
100 billion.
100 billion more.
They had committed 500 billion to bring Apple processing and manufacturing back to the United States about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They committed another 100 billion this morning. So now 600 billion from Apple. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Because it's more profitable to come back here for $600 billion and make it here than it will be long-term to pay those tariffs coming in from another country. That's the whole premise behind what he's trying to accomplish in the United States with his tariff program. Okay, what did he say about Russian oil? Last 2 or 3 days, I get a big email, it's from the RNC, it comes in with all this stuff, but one of the things about Russian oil, what's the big thing about Russian oil? And Trump just said,
If you
What is
buy
that?
it, you're gonna pay more to us.
So,
You put a
secondary
higher
tariffs.
tariff on.
secondary tariffs.
Yeah.
If
Secondary
you're buying
tariff.
Russian oil.
If you're buying, let's say you are Portugal. Portugal decides to buy Russian oil. At that point, you go into a category where Trump says, Portugal, your tariffs just went up to here because you're passing that through. So, it's a good deal. What else will that do? What will that do? It will even out the market, but it will also do something that the whole world right now is like, God, we gotta stop that. It stops the thank you, Shelley. Shelley's very well versed on that. She and her husband are very well versed, but you gotta spit it out there, Shelley, because a lot of people don't know it.
Linda said,
What's that?
Linda said war.
That's okay. She's right.
She also has a swimming pool and everybody's invited over there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go, Shelley. But anyway, if we quit buying oil from Russia, they can't use that revenue to fight the war with Ukraine. And Trump knows that. So if we can get, change the market around, make the price a bit, more favorable, and stop the war because the funding's not there, that's a good deal for us as a world. How about, I'm gonna mark that off my list, how about gerrymandering?
Oh,
Ed talked about that a little while ago, and I'm gonna put this out. What is gerrymandering, and first of all, where did the term gerrymandering come from? Thomas, you don't answer.
It was a former vice president. That's who he's named after.
Well, no, actually, it's a guy named Elbridge
He
Gerry.
was vice president.
Elbridge Jerry, years ago, was vice president, and he made this system where they would mark out like congressional and senatorial districts based on where the Republicans were or where the Democrats were or whatever the case may be. And the Democrats have done it to their advantage for years.
Yes.
Well, when Elbridge Jerry did that, they put a picture of him in the paper up in New England with something like a salamander's body with little arms and it became gerrymandering. That's where that came from. But what it does is it draws your district and it makes it a bit more favorable to the party in power. And typically it's done every census, they redo it based on population movement and so forth. But historically, and if you're not aware of it, go out and look up Democrat gerrymandering online. I won't belabor this, but you'll see some districts like here's the town of Chicago. And it's one person's district that goes out here and comes back, goes out here and comes back, goes out here and comes back. And what they did, they went out and they carved out the areas where there were a lot of Democrats and tried to mesh it in with a small amount of Republicans. And that guy had a more favorable opportunity to win as a Democrat. Illinois has 40% of their people, I think it was Illinois. 40% of California, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, and a couple of them have 25 to 35% Republican, but they have very little, if any, representation at our congressional level because they've gerrymandered them out.
Yeah.
It's kinda like the city of Clarksburg trying to annex them all.
Sure. And you annex some of those because you don't want the people, but you want the what? Tax revenue.
And the votes.
And the vote. Well, I mean, a mall, you're not gonna get a lot of votes at the mall because there's no residents there, but they do that for tax days. But a lot of times you'll see an area comes in like, I don't know, like Deerfield. All of a sudden, something happens and Deerfield blows up and there's 100 more homes in there. Then you try to move that around a bit to where when you look at their registration, the more Republicans than Democrats, we're gonna gerrymander that to split it, to make it more favorable for the candidates. And it's always the group that's in power, and historically the Democrats did it, and now we have the power, we have the majority, now we're doing it, and what are the Texas representatives doing? They're leaving, they're going to Chicago, and they're also going to New York, because somebody's having a welcoming party for them. Anybody know who that was?
J.D. Pritzker in Illinois.
J.D. Pritzker in Illinois, Kathy Hochul in New York. She's saying, come on up, we'll have you up for a while. And so, guess what they did in the Texas representation? Guess what they did in the hall down there? They locked it up and said, hey, there's a warrant for your arrest. Now they're gonna go out looking for these people. We'll see how far it goes.
Yeah.
But it's gonna.
Well, the House Speaker is terrible,
Oh, yeah.
in Texas, so what he should have done about 4 days ago is lock the doors then, because the Democrats are there, but he's basically, he's a Democrat.
Yes.
He's elected by Democrats.
And the process that we're talking about is how someone like he got into that seat. And, I mean, he could have made a lot of changes a long time ago. And really and truly, that's just, it's very, very fraudulent. Anything else? Okay, let's go to the state. Ed can tell you, Mike DeWalt would tell you, if he were here. We got the majority in 2014. And the first thing we did was repeal the bill that said we'd use less coal. Part of the problem right now in Charleston, to some extent, is that here's a Republican platform. And we're focused on the Republican platform, but there might be 9 different caucuses within the Republican caucus. Some of them are very, very useful. Ed's is very useful. Ed doesn't say you have to come. Ed says we're gonna be in the McManus room, you wanna come over and hear the presentation, which if we can, I always go. But his is information to all of us, so when you make a vote on something of this nature, you're more fluent, more well-versed. But we also have the Eastern Panhandle Caucus. We have the Second Amendment, the Gun Caucus. We have the Liberty Caucus. We've got the Religious Caucus. So unfortunately, what happens is, it's 91-9 Republicans, majority in the House, but all of a sudden, this table is all about Second Amendment. This table is all about liberty. this table's all about election integrity, and this table over here is all about religion. Guess what happens to your caucus? All of a sudden,
Dilutes it.
it dilutes them. Thank you, Craig. It dilutes them because now these 6 or 8 folks can't get along with these 6 or 8 folks. They won't negotiate and they won't talk about it, and they won't say, hey, I'm not sure about election integrity. Well, maybe you ought to go to Ed's meeting and find out, no, I never liked Ed Fisher. I'm not going to that. So guess what?
I understand.
Yeah, and they don't, no, not at all, not at all. I'm there if I can be there, you know that. But the fact of the matter is that you take 91, now you've got 9, then you've got 8, then you've got 7, and you've got 9 Democrats going, Shelley, did you know that Gary doesn't like you? Hey, Gary, did you know that Jim never did like you? I mean, that's what they do. If you think I'm kidding you, trust me, that's exactly, and they stir the pot. Because if they can get that 9 more in with their 9, and then another, next thing you know, a vote goes down 51-49. Something that you really wanted goes down 51-49. And the world's like, what in the heck happened down there? That's what happened. So, me personally, I'd like to see the Republican caucus come in here and say, we can't get that because it may, on the surface, it may sound like a really good deal, but down the road, it may cost us as a state. So, we got to get better at that, and we're learning. But when you all of a sudden you go from 1 or 2 people in the Senate and maybe in a minority in the House, and all of a sudden you have a supermajority in both, handling that type of power can go to some people's heads, and it's a bad deal because you all will suffer because of it. Got to fix that. That's a big deal. There are a couple groups down there. And I won't name any names because I don't want to upset them. But I would take exception to them. They'll say to Mary, Mary wants you to join our group and it's $200 to join. So Mary says, okay, here's my $200. I think you guys got a good group and I want you to, here's my $200. So Mary goes into house session and this group says, Mary, there's a bill coming up, we want you to vote yes. She's like, I'm not sure. My people think this stinks. You gotta vote yes. If you don't vote yes, we're gonna primary you. We're gonna use your money as our funding to go find someone to run against you. You think that happens? It's happening all the time. It's happening all the time. So when someone comes to you and says, we want you to join our movement, it's gonna cost you $200. You know the first thing I say as a good old redneck? Wait a minute. You want me to jump in there and do your dirty work, you need to give me $200. Think about it. Why would I give you my money to come around and bite me in the butt? Bad deal, bad deal. Awful lot of talk about microgrids. Microgrids, data centers, they're coming. Boys and girls, they're coming. Having that information, having that data center is imperative for the future of this economy, the future of our country. I mean, if you want to be a leader in the world economy, in everything, militarily, everything, you're going to have these data centers. However,
So that's a very important point. So this check my vote system we're bringing to West Virginia. So we currently have to host it in New Jersey because there isn't a data center here for us to host.
think about that.
We want to host it here because people would feel more comfortable with our voter data in West Virginia. I'm not comfortable with New Jersey, but that was the closest place to West Virginia for us to host it. So we do need that, Phil, in West Virginia.
Now, here's the other part of the conversation. You've heard me here when Clay Riley was here a couple weeks ago, we talked about microgrids, data centers. These data centers take an unbelievable amount of what? Electricity and water. They need an unbelievable amount. Well, someone says it could be 30,000 gallons a week. It could be 30,000 gallons a day. It could be 330,000, depending on the size of the data center. Go down here to the Tigard River, put some sort of a measuring device in there and see how much water goes through this point in an hour. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. We have the wherewithal to do this. And to Ed's point, if you look up data centers in Virginia, they have 300 big ones. And the reason they're so big is why? Why would Northern Virginia have big data centers? Well, they're getting their power from us and they want more, and that's gonna be a battle, but why would all this, say, Washington DC? Washington DC, and half of that, I think I've read a number, like 42% of the data that they maintain is useless. They're never gonna need it. It's there, but they're probably never gonna use it. But, to Greg's point, there's a power line right now coming in from northern Ohio and Pennsylvania, coming down through West Virginia to get to those data centers. Why don't they build their own coal power plants in Virginia? Because their claim is we're a green state. You can burn the coal up in western Pennsylvania, you can burn the gas, you can burn the oil, you can do whatever, and pipe the electricity to us, but we wanna say that we're a green state. I think they have 312 big ones and like 300 smaller ones, but the number that Clay and I kicked around was like 635 total data centers. They told us in Charleston that a data center, once it's in, the company, and the one that we're dealing with is called Fundamental Data. That company will pay the state somewhere between $160 and $200 million a year per data center. Now, think about it. If you had 2 or 3 or 4 of them, all the pet projects that we need done that we used to do with coal severance tax, that money's available. Plus, we're mining more coal and we're drilling for more natural gas. Both of those things do what? Put people to work, bring in revenue to run our state. Plus, $160 million, conservatively speaking, $160 million from the data center. Now, you were here, some of you over here, when we had the 3 people, Clay was here, 3 people complaining about the one in Tucker County. As we get more and more aware of it, I guarantee you what's going to happen. You can take whatever money you want and bet on it. If the people in Tucker County don't realize that, yes, we're going to do this, and it's going to be on that landfill, 1,700 acres up there, we're going to use coal, we're going to use natural gas, because it's close proximity to both up there. And they keep pushing back, pushing back, pushing back. Finally, all of a sudden, fundamental data says, we're going to Ohio. It's going somewhere. I've heard several of you say, we talked about Form Energy, we talked about Nucor, we talked about whatever. If the legislature doesn't make the pathway for corporations to come in, just like Trump is making the pathway for these companies to come back to the United States, they'll go somewhere else. Hey, Jim.
I went through Davis the other day, and almost every house in the business had no data center signs.
Do you know why that is? Anybody know why that is? The reason that is because those people in Thomas and Davis are not from Thomas and Davis. They're not from Thomas and Davis. If you go up there, a couple years ago, we stopped up there to play golf. And we stopped at a place called the Big Belly Deli. Thank you, Greg. Anyway, so we go in there, and this girl said to me, she said, "Aren't you Delegate Mallow?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Why would you vote against abortion?" She went after me. I said, "Because you're not the only voice in the state. And my people aren't for it." She was an absolute booger with me. And then the manager came out later and apologized, and I'm like, you know what, I get that everywhere. But I had a dentist over there, Don Prime, and he was in Oakland years ago, moved to Davis, and wife and I would still go over there when he was practicing. He retired, but we talk a lot. And he's like, everybody here came in to ski, came into Canaan Valley, they want to live off the grid. They've made their money somewhere, and now they're coming in from Virginia. And the conversation that we've talked about, the corridor coming in from Virginia, everybody says it'll bring all that money, it'll bring all that business, and it'll bring all that into, guess what else it brings in? That attitude, that liberal attitude. So those signs that are up there right now, there's probably a small group of people, we can go get some grease. Those 3 people that were here, this guy that sat over here that kind of had the greasy hair and slicked down Caucasian, he still communicates to my Facebook, my delegate Facebook page. This gentleman that sat over here, the big boy, that's Nancy Bickerstaff's grandson. The lady that's in the back, I don't know where she's from, but this guy's from like Seattle, right outside of Seattle, Washington. His job is to go around and cause problems for anybody trying to put up a data center. Maybe he doesn't want it in West Virginia because he really represents who? Ohio. Because if I can run it here, maybe he's being paid by an organization from Washington, Thomas is right, or we'd like it in Ohio. Somebody had a book in the legislature, brought it in, gave it on my desk, and I'm leafing through it, and I like to read, and I'm going through it. There's an aerial picture of up by Weirton, up, I don't know, 3,000 feet. Here's a river. And again, here's a golf course that Greg took us up to, up there. We stopped at Hog Fathers and got something to eat and all that. And we're going up to, and Greg was up there years ago when Weirton Steel was in business, and there were 17,000 people working, Greg?
I was corrected on it, it's 12.
12,000, okay, 12,000 people working in this area. But now, when you take a picture, this whole area is desolate, nothing going on. And right across the river in Ohio, businesses everywhere. And all it is legislation. I mean, it's a big deal, big deal. And that guy could be working for some other state. It's very, very
And
possible.
all those buildings they had, were still torn down, put the pile and shipped to China.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you had a great big building and all of a sudden you have iron and steel and all these capacitors and all kind of everything, and it's like, what are we gonna do with this mess? And someone from China goes, ding, I'm buying that thing for pennies on the dollar, ship it all over there, power it up, and then sell the steel back to us. That's just crazy. We gotta have more foresight and be smarter about that. Also talked about water. Evidently, when the water goes through the cooling system, people were saying, well, how much of that water will go back into our environment, and is it potable? Well, now they're saying maybe we gotta figure out with the data centers, some sort of a radiation cooling tower type thing, to where that water is constantly recycled, used there, filtered, and then put back in. We'll get that figured out. Fact of the matter is, it's gonna happen. If you turn on anything now on the news, they're gonna talk about it. Data centers, microgrids, and what's the great big one? AI, artificial intelligence. Everything out there is driven by this. The guy this morning, early, at 5:30, I don't sleep much, 5:30 this morning, he was saying that the electricity for 100 million homes in 1 year is equal to what one of these great big data centers will burn in a month. 100 million homes for a year, now, that's just crazy. But the fact of the matter is that we could put a lot of people back to work, we could get more coal, we could get us better utilization of our natural resources. I'm all for that. As a West Virginia delegate, I'm all for it. Okay. I want to read off some bills. We got a list of bills. Some of these, most of these I was involved in, that's why I still have them, but I was given to me, and I wrote them down on the Zoom call. And then we were told to like rank them rate as to what do you see as important and what do you see as not as important. So I'm gonna go through these real quick. For my 1 star, they're important, but they're not the most important. Increase funding to vocational trade schools. We should be able to do that anyway. We really should. We have one in Marion County. We should be able to do that. So I was just talking about a military college. We should be able to do that. I mean, we don't need a whole lot of state funding for something that will be profitable in the long term. Littering and unlawful burning. There's a law already. But somebody says this is an important bill. Animal cruelty concerns and enforcement. There are already laws on the book if somebody speaks up. Remember a couple of years ago, there was a guy up in Grafton. They went down, a lady called in and said, these animals are dying. They went in there and swooped in on that guy. They got like 14 horses, a bunch of animals. The law's already in place. Department of Agricultural funding. Department of Agriculture coming from the federal government, you belong to Farm Bureau, which if you're not a member, you should join. They have a lot of like thoughts that we have. They get money from the Department of Ag. You just gotta make it to where the taxes and stuff on big farms and property. What's the biggest deterrent for big farms nowadays? Anybody know? What's that? Housing developments is one, absolutely. Kids don't want to work anymore, so they just sell off the 500 acres. Well, what's the other thing? Workforce. What else? China's coming in buying farmland. They got like 2.4 million acres of farmland. But the big thing that killed it during the Obama-Biden era, anybody know what that is? Before I give it that?
Inheritance tax.
There you go. The inheritance tax. Guy gets a farm or a business, they go into the same category. When they die, and the children inherit it, they had to sell off like 25, 30, sometimes 38% to pay the inheritance tax on that big thing. And every time that happens over 3 or 4 generations, the farm gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the housing development comes in. That's just crazy. Mental health monitoring. They want more money for mental health monitoring, okay? I'm not sure about it. I think we have programs in place. We have people that don't speak up, if they see something, say something, they don't do that. We should do that. Okay, those were my, of all the ones that came out, those were they're important, but they're not the most important. 2 stars. These are no particular order. 2 stars. PEIA. PEIA is important because 220,000 people positively or adversely affected by it. We have to find a means to get the proportion that the people pay and the state pay where we can keep it going for years. If we're not careful, and the Democrats are always like, here's that can, let's kick it down the street, and eventually something will happen. Well, with PEIA, if you're not careful, what will happen eventually is that they'll come in someday and say, hey, it's bankrupt. Nobody has any money. Anybody that has health care, you know how health care works. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. The PEIA is one of them. Foster care and CPS. Foster care is a problem. There's like 7,000 kids here. But some of them, and I'm going to talk about another one of my bills here in a minute, that Linda and Jim are involved in. We have some answers to some of this stuff, but there's some contingent over here that says, we don't want to do that. That's going to infringe upon my business or my interest. There's got to be a way around it. And if you talk about drugs and you talk about grandchildren and so forth, we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. How about this one? Better oversight of state school, huh?
Question, aren't we building some cluster small houses for those foster kids when they?
In some
They
county,
become of age?
so you got something, go ahead.
Yeah, our church was building some houses for them. I was actually a part of that where I built one of the houses for them. And then we're shipping them down to Philippi, which is where they're gonna, a lot of the ones that are aging out of foster care are gonna have those houses.
We allocated, I think it was $400,000 to start with a company called KFC, not the chicken people. But we started a program called Middle College at Fairmont State. If you're 16 years of age, this money was allocated for you to go stay at the college, get your high school degree, and hopefully put you in that mode to go right into college. And that's called Middle College. That's happening over here now. Better oversight of the state school system and educational reform. We passed a bill last time that every time the Board of Education, State Board of Education wants to do something, it has to go through what? Legislative oversight. We've got to take a look at it. This was one of the 4 amendments years ago that we wanted, that they put out there in a negative manner, and people voted it down. Now we're finding out that like 9 counties are almost bankrupt or about to go bankrupt, and we're saying that we need better oversight, watch where the money's spent. Kind of ironic that we can never get money for educational means, but if we need money for new bleachers or new AstroTurf, we'll find it. We will find it, okay? And a side note to that, I'm gonna hold on there just for a second. Did anybody see the superintendent from Virginia, school superintendent from Virginia, anybody see what she makes?
Oh, it's like 400, 500.
$404,000 a year, and what does she want now, Ed? Anybody know?
Security, isn't it?
She wants a security
Oh,
person
security.
that makes over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
She has a clothing allotment, she has a transportation, she gets a car, and she's got travel. She's got 3 things, in addition to her $404,000. Now she wants security that will make at least 6 figures in Virginia. Now, the kicker is that Virginia's actually kicking that around because she's in, I think, highly populated area. But guess what helps Virginia to pay for that kind of crap?
The data centers.
The data centers, thanks a lot. They've got some discretionary money that someone like her, I mean, in West Virginia, we don't have that. So we're saying, you've got all these superintendents of these 3 counties, they're making $120,000 a piece. I think ours makes $161,000. So these three counties have very few students. Let's consolidate them. Let's make one superintendent, one, admissions person, limit the administrative people and move that money to where the rubber meets the road. That's good, right?
June and I were talking about that earlier today. In some of the states we've been in, instead of having county, schools and superintendent, it was district. And it went on population of students.
Sure.
So, you might have one district that has 2,000, and you might have 3 or 4 counties that make up another district that has 2,000.
Sure.
So it's based on population of students.
Sure. Well,
When
you
you
get-
have districts, you might go from 55 counties down to 10 districts.
You hear a lot about the school aid formula. We need to update the school aid formula. The school aid formula right now is based on 1,200 students in that district or in that school system. So if West Fairmont has 1,200 kids, they get X amount of dollars per child. But if they've only got 900 kids, guess what they get? $1,200. So to that point, let's say we consolidate those two, now we legitimately have enough students to get to 1,200, and it forces people to say, we're duplicating processes, we don't have enough money to pay Jack and Gary and Ed. But you've heard me say before, is there any way I can consolidate that so that when Ed retires, these two guys pick it up and Ed's gone, and we cut our costs through attrition and retirement? That's the sort of thing that we're looking at down there, but trust me, anything that goes with the school board and the teachers, they're in the hallway screaming and hollering and throwing paper and ranting and raving. And it's not like for a few minutes. It's the whole time you're down there, you can hear this throng out in the Great Hall. But, okay, we'll move on. Better coordination of state and county economic development. The competition from county to county, well, state to state, and then county to county is huge. It's huge. We're competing against Prime 6 over here. Prime 6 was supposed to go where? Anybody remember? Buchanan. It was gonna go to Buchanan. As soon as Buchanan said, well, we can't do this, Fairmont kicked in and we were able to get it.
What is it?
It's gonna make a high-grade smokeless charcoal.
Oh,
And we visited with her 2 couple weeks ago. She's moving along.
Is this the one that Kevin O'Leary is?
Yeah, Kevin Larry's involved in it. Yep. But if everybody was on the same page, an economic development across the state would say, we've got a bunch of people up here, but no jobs. We need to figure out a way to get what we're recruiting here. We gotta get what we're recruiting over here. If we did a better job of coordinating that effort, I think we could make some situations like Nucor in Mason County. This is an important thing, but I don't think right now we need to change anything because it's humming along so well. Is what? Anybody guess? Tourism. We're one of the top 5 tourism growth places in the country right now. Came out yesterday in the news. If you look it up online, we're doing. Chelsea Ruby is just knocking it out of the ballpark. Better crime and drug enforcement. Big deal, but the laws are already on the book. So this is not something that I would approach from a legislative standpoint. I think accountability, like, how many times have you caught this guy? How many times are you gonna pursue that to where you lock his butt up?
The nice thing about it is people go on vacation and come here and not get done.
That part of, well, that was an issue. That was an issue for family vacations and camping and that sort of thing. That the right kind of camping, it's a big deal. Structure guidelines for medical and financial assistance, rather than just walking in and saying, "Hey, I need help." Okay, so, but you're in one of the things about PEIA. There are people on PEIA, spouses, whose husband or wife make over $800,000 a year. Anybody believe that? It's true. It's true. They qualify for it. So this person works for the state. This person's an attorney. This person's a doctor. Guess where this person gets his insurance? From you all. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, the things that I thought would be really, really important that I sent to the committee: reform the workforce participation rate and the system for incorporating it. A way to say, if you are, let's say 25 to 45, you're healthy and you have no dependents, you should be working.
Yes.
There was a bill a couple sessions ago that was proposed, kind of got a little bit of traction, but then it died, was if you are in that category, to get your assistance, you have to work 20 hours a week, volunteer 20 hours a week, or train for something 20 hours a week in order to get it. And it even went so much that we had someone come in and say, bless you, we had someone come in and say, if you get this other part-time job while you're looking for a job, you get a part-time job, you can take your part-time pay and your unemployment as long as those two don't exceed what you made initially. And they kicked them, and they were mad about that. But if you get a situation where, hang on a second, if you had a situation where he's getting $300 a week, and I can go to him and say, I'm gonna pay you $150, but Thomas over here is gonna pay you $150 to work at his hamburger stand. He gets him cheaper, his business grows, and the government saves half. He becomes productive. Kind of a simple thing, yes, sir.
Does like tech schools and colleges count as training?
Yes, yes. But the thing about it is that you have to have something, and if you did that to that exact point, you right here, I'm just a lump. I'm just taking advantage of what's out there. If I'm a lump that's trying, next thing you know, that lump becomes a productive citizen, and he's making money to help us all. We have a 52% workforce participation rate. That means only 52% of the eligible workers in West Virginia work. That's crazy. If you look at that, I think the average in the United States is like 63, and we're at 52. I mean, we just gotta make a change on that. How about infrastructure, water, sewage, road maintenance? I think that's a no-brainer. I think we need that, one, for us, and two, if I'm thinking about coming here to live, coming here on tourism, whatever the case may be, or I'm thinking about bringing my business here, you're gonna have to have all that. Better accountability of all state agencies for effectiveness and efficiency. We did that last time. We combined the cultural trust and the tourism, and we put it under, had two agencies with multiple people operating. We put them all under Chelsea Ruby. Some people maintained their jobs, some people got retired out, and it's just more productive right now. What else we got here? And this is one I develop coal, gas, and timber industry jobs. We know we're gonna need them. We allowed the Obama administration and Joe Manchin and the Democrat majority at that time to tell us that we could do without coal. And anybody who talked to us say, why did we slam the door on coal? Why didn't we make a transition period, like as wind and solar becomes better, more efficient, more effective? The market would determine, because Gary would buy it for his house and put it on, and he would say, hey, that cut my electric bill by 25%. He'd come here and tell us. Then Jim and Linda would say, you know what, maybe we should try that. So Jim and Linda said, yeah, hey, it helped us too. Then guess what? Greg and June do it, then Pam and I do it. The market would determine whether it's viable and doesn't make a good replacement. But to tell people, hey, you can't burn coal-fired power plants. If you can't burn it, you can't mine it. If you can't mine it, these people are out of a job. And all that coal severance tax. I think the number used to be like $3.8 million a year that Marion County got from our coal extracted here. That's crazy. We're smarter than that, and we're better than that. Moving on. In the county here, we had a parade in Mannington the other night. For those of you who didn't make it, phooey. We had a great time, and we were the far and away. Willie Jefferson's not here, Jerry Schoonover's not here, Linda's the mainstay. Those three folks kind of keep us together when it comes to these situations with floats and parades. Kudos to Linda and the guy. I'm telling you what, we had the best float. We had music playing, patriotic music playing. We had waving signs. We threw candy, and everybody, with the exception of one guy. There's one guy that I know, he's old school, hardcore Democrat. So I'm sitting along the edge, and I held up a great big Tootsie Roll, and I said, he went. It's exactly what he did. But at any rate, for the most part, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, because I had two signs that said support Trump but Republican, and I had one sign that said Mallow, bringing West Virginia back. And Linda helped me. I wave it over here for a while, and I give it to Linda, and she wave it over there, and But for the most part, they gave us thumbs up and a good positive response.
That's good.
We have got to, we've got Salah, Salah was there, Chris Rose was there, Thomas was there, who am I missing, guys? Who? Toby Haney was there, exactly. And we got a good response. So that's what it takes. What, do you all realize that this president has done everything he's done in 7 months? We got almost 3.5 years left. If we do this right, we should have a huge amount of momentum in the midterms and roll right into J.D. Vance or whoever it's gonna be. They asked Trump yesterday, who's gonna be the heir apparent, who's gonna be the heir apparent to the MAGA thing? He said, well, J.D.'s in position right now, but he also talked about who? Marco. Okay, think about it, Marco Rubio. And what he's trying to say is like, I like you, you're getting better, you're doing all right. Who's someone that paid huge dividends for Trump? About 3 years ago, this person wasn't really sure about Trump. He said a few things that were kind of, and all of a sudden, he gave her a position, and Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard came out several years ago. She wasn't all sold on Trump. All of a sudden, she gets in, and now she's doing some things that's bringing about some shedding light on some stuff. It's a good deal for us. But if you have any more opportunities to come to the, it is, we had bottled water, we had candy, we laughed, we met up at Rainbow Plaza, we decorated it, and, Willie, Linda, and Jerry did a great job of giving us all the stuff we needed. Thomas showed up with some signs, put them on the side of Mike's truck. Mike DeBall pulled the trailer. It was his trailer, by the way. Kudos to Mike and to Kim. Mary Allen and Ed were there. Salah. Who else?
What's her name? The New York couple.
Yeah, here's the couple that always cheer and holler.
Yeah, New York. What's her name?
This guy stood in the back. He's probably about 70 years old. He had a Trump flag and he was singing "God Bless America." He was yelling at people. And the enthusiasm level, when we came in, I'm telling you guys, when we came in, you could feel the enthusiasm of the crowd went up. Kids ran out because they knew we were going to throw them a bunch of candy, which we did.
He said eat healthy.
What's that?
He was yelling, eat healthy.
Eat healthy. And I'm throwing Tootsie Rolls out. Yeah.
And I really hate to say anything, because we always throw candy at these parties.
Yeah.
I ride with the Shriners
Yeah.
3 weeks. Now, we have to pay extra insurance. We had to go and get an extra insurance policy because we want them kids to have the candy. But the first time we run over one, or it's hit by a float, you'd be surprised how many parades now are not letting them throw candy.
Sure.
I mean, simply because of the liability. I've got these big wide cars, and these kids are wanting to come out and fist them. And Grafton here just a while ago, I didn't get a make man, and I was sitting here feeling bad because I didn't get a make
Yeah,
man.
but I wrote your name down.
Yeah, I know you did. But you'll pay for that. But, and we hate not to throw the candy. We had to quit giving out flags. Now, the VFW was giving us for years, they give us 12 dozen flags, little American flags to give to the kids. Well, we had to quit because they were climbing right up against the four-wheeler to get the flag. And it's,
You just have somebody else.
in time, that's gonna become a problem.
Hang on a second. Let's pick that apart. Why does that happen?
But parents need to monitor it.
Parents monitor, because we were throwing them where Linda was on that side of it. We were throwing them over against the curb. And it was like, what, 10, 12 feet before. So the parents were watching their kids. We were going, hey, honey. And I was doing like this. But who's instigating that? And it's something called COA. Anybody in the legal term know what COA is?
Cover your ass.
No. That's CYA. That's CYA. No, but there's somebody out there, and I may have given it away. Who makes that possible? Who wants to talk about that? Who wants to talk about it to where his organization is the great organization I'm a part of? They have to get an insurance policy. And someday maybe everybody will have to pay $1,000 to be on a parade. Who's doing that? It's called course of action. And who does course of action? Anybody know? Attorneys. Attorneys do it.
Lawyers.
Lawyers and attorneys.
Because that picture roll, you feel if it hits somebody in the eye,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, a couple people, I actually threw it at them. But that's what happens is that, and the thing about it is that when you hear that, you know, I wanna hear some data. I wanna hear how many children across the country, how many kids were injured by a float, as opposed to how many kids ride a bicycle with no helmet. I mean, there's a lot of things that those guys kinda stir up when they know the money's there. Okay.
Parksburg actually asked us to pay an entrance fee.
Sure.
We said-
Think about that.
Thank you, we're not coming.
Think about what he just said. I'm trying to sell tickets for the half a beef, okay? But in order to sell the tickets for the half a beef at our Italian festival, you gotta give us $1,000. Guess what? Everybody's gonna say, well, wait a minute, it's a great opportunity to sell a lot of people, but that's $1,000 before I make a dime. A lot of people, it's an issue. Let's go on. What's the big problem we're having here in Marion County? Big problem.
Road, ditch.
Roads, water. Okay, did anybody hear the state of the city address? The state of the city. Travis Blosser stood up and gave state of the city. The first one we've ever had. And he's saying that going down in the future, we're going to have to redo the water lines in Marion County, in the city. Not Marion County, but in the city. Anybody catch the number that he kicked out? $1 billion. $1 billion. Now, where does a town our size get $1 billion?
Check the water bill.
Well, it's gonna go up incrementally. Well, that's part of it. It's gonna happen. You want better service, but how many of you anybody know where I live? Across the old BMW Electric? You're going up Watson Hill. You're going up Watson Hill and you turn left right by the old BMW Electric. I'm back in there. Check the water right there as you come out of my neighborhood. There's always water running there. Always. So I brought that up one time. The guy told me, he said, he works in the water department. 40%, in his opinion, 40% of what we process, we lose through the leaks and the antiquated infrastructure. Okay? It's all been compromised. Now, we talk about when you blacktop something in South Carolina, everything underneath of it has to be fixed first before you can blacktop. That's the executive order. We don't do that here, but we have water leaks all over our state. Yeah.
Morgantown has that program for 15 or 20 years. And you see in the news what's happening in Clarksburg now? Same thing, they're digging up all the streets.
Yep.
Get breaks, water run down the street.
Yep.
Right
Well,
here, right there, somewhere else. Next.
and the point of the matter is that we have sat back and accepted it. To these two guys' point, we're gonna raise your water bill just a little bit to offset the loss, because everybody knows, y'all pay a minimum amount whether you're home or not, right? Y'all know that? And then you pay for what, 4,000 gallons? I think you pay the water rate for 4,000 gallons whether you use it or not. But there's a lot of things that come up.
Well, you know, our water, city water, PSC report, for years was showing like a $2 million a year profit, okay? They should be already doing those things with that money that they're making.
Exactly. And it's all about awareness. Worthington update. As you guys know, I've been vilified by the people of Worthington and the surrounding area, 4 states, Owensboro and all that. I went down to a meeting because their sewage system was like falling apart, backing up in people's houses. And I went down and just took some questions, answered some questions, and asked some questions. And it all came out that, well, the city council and the mayor and the sewage board are not doing enough to help the situation in Worthington. Worthington has the same system that was put in Ida May years ago, and it's causing a problem. Well, I said, I'll do what I can. Well, one guy said, well, Bobby Duvall, the county commissioner, told us there's $300,000 down there that they won't access or even request. I said, I'll find out for you. I wrote it down. Come to find out, there once was $300,000 of ARPA money that came in for water, sewage, and infrastructure that the town had been going to the county commission saying, we need $35,000 for this. County commission went to that fund, gave them $35,000, but it looked as though the county commission had given them that money. So the person did not lie, he just in a very untimely manner, misspoke. Because at the time that they were having this after the big flood, they only had like $122,000 in it. So you'll see where Linda Longcrest said we've given them $369,000, that's total. So, I went back and I reported, that's not a good number. Well, as luck would have it, the guy calls Bobby Duvall shows up late in the meeting. He says, and I said, just tell him that he misspoke. Never said that. So, now I'm vilified that I haven't fixed their problem. It's probably a $5 million deal. But I did contact the governor. I contacted the two senators, Justice and Shelley Moore, and I contacted Riley Moore's office. And I said, hey, I need some help with this, we got a situation. Well, and I also filled out a letter to the Abandoned Mine Land Economical Revitalization Program. It's a federal program. And I said, hey, we need this. So we're working on it, but they hate me. I mean, I've had people call me and leave me a message on my home phone and on my delegate phone. We're going to get you out of there. And we found out the other night at the parade that Joey Garcia and my ex-opponent, Stephanie Tamano, are out there saying, Maryland should have fixed that. Maryland should have fixed that. Chris Rose should have been down there helping you guys. I've said to you guys before, you're my radio. You need to get that out there. Because, Thomas.
So a little bit of context. Joey Garcia, Senator for Fairmont and Morgantown, has been tasked by Mike Pushkin to fill the ballot for House delegate races. And Phil is one of the races that they're going to be gunning for hard in this area. And so, gotta get out there. I know he brought up Chris. I'm Chris Rose, campaign manager. Chris is going to go out fighting for Phil as well, but gotta get out there. If we don't get the message across, they will, and they're good at it. I give them that. I don't agree with them on barely anything, but I like how they get the message out. They do it. They reach the young people, and they twist the knife and they twist the messaging to fit their agenda. So, gotta help Phil out. He's working hard for this area, and so just do what you can.
Couple things. I've said this number all the time. You may not be aware of it, but we talk about awareness and what's going on here. I used to be, now I'm back into being the chair for fire and EMS. We got them $12 million. Now I'm trying to get $10 or $11 million for the rescue squads and put them on a state line item for the budget. I'm trying to get that. But now they made me the chair for courts and corrections. And courts and corrections, one of the biggest things is the regional jail bill. Does anybody want to guess what the month of July, what the cost was for the regional jail bill for Marion County? $342,000. 1 month. We used to pay that with cold severance tax. Now we have minimal cold severance tax, so we're shifting money around. And once you get in arrears with that regional jail bill, it goes up a percentage here and there as a penalty. So there's a whole bunch of counties that can't pay it. It's accumulating faster. And I'm trying to get things like home confinement, video conferencing, serious crimes, you go to jail. Shoplifting, drunken disorderly, domestic quarrel, whatever the case may be, unless it's like a knife attack or whatever. Those sort of things, you get your home magistrate. And it, honestly, on the 26th of this month, I'm meeting with the state Supreme Court to get a judgment call on that situation and Linda and Jim's bill. Linda and Jim's bill was a hair follicle bill, and I kept it for last, but it's a different. You're on drugs, and you're letting your kids run around, and the grandparents come in and say, we can't do anything about you two, but we're going to salvage these new children, grandchildren. In West Virginia, it's very hard to get the children away from biological parents. But if you can prove that they're addicted to drugs, that helps. So, right now they're using blood and urine test. Blood and urine test, you can go online, you can buy something, and Linda can tell us, Jim can tell us more about that. You can buy something that helps you beat the rap, so to speak. So, she came up with a hair follicle bill. She called me about it, and I said, wonderful, give it to me. She wrote it almost verbatim. I took it down, I wrote it by my attorney, and we put a few things in that made it more legal and binding. It passed the Senate, or passed the House, 97 nothing? 96 to nothing. And I championed it, I talked about it in caucus, I talked about it in front of everybody. It went, it's no brainer. So much so that John Williams, a Democrat, delegate in Mon County, came to me and he said, Phil, he said, your bill allows us a way to prove that someone is on drugs. But it would also allow an attorney to have a means to prove that someone is not on drugs. He said, could I amend that with your approval to say it would prove either or? Contacted my attorney, he came in, we looked it over, said, look, it makes the bill stronger. Democrats are on board, consequently 96-0. We went to the Senate and died. Now, Jim had taken it upon himself to go to one of the senators and say, excuse me, I won't speak for Jim, but here's kind of what he said. You know what you're doing? Why would you let something like that die? Well, guess what? It's on my list to be an issue. That's a no-brainer. You have a problem with foster children, you got a problem with CPS, you got little kids that are, their parents started, we're gonna fix it, okay? Sure, go ahead.
Would that also help like cost numbers?
It could, yeah.
Like, if we got like availability of that, once it's 6 feet on a child's
The biggest thing with court-appointed special advocates, CASA, the biggest thing with that is the money. You get an attorney that's making $100 an hour, and right now the state's paying him $60 an hour as a CASA. So the fact of the matter is, we gotta figure out a way to make that money better. Or we figured out a way to reduce the number of kids that actually need a CASA, and we make it to where now instead of having 60-some kids a month, you've got 25. That's a huge bill. That is a huge bill that people get involved, and it made it damn easy on me. And I'm disappointed in the Senate for not taking it. Last thing, and I'll let you go. Respected Pros. If you're not familiar with Respected Pros, we had a thing a couple weeks ago. Mitch Wood and Scott Porterfield, they have a group called Respected Pros. I've had them here. He was here a couple times, talked to us. Utilize those folks. Those guys are like young men, young women, went out on their own, opened up a business. They do almost everything. You go to Say Boys for dinner. The placemat there has all the pictures on it. You can go on Respected Pros website and get a list of siding, gutters, painting, carpentry. They came all together and they volunteered Saturday and they redid the auditorium, gymnasium type thing down at the Union Rescue Mission. But we had to get together. Chamber was there. It's a big deal. Chamber's going to meet tonight. We're going to go to dinner and talk about what we can and can't do. These guys are good. Look up the Respected Pros. And if you have a job at your house that you need done, call me. If you can't find that info, call me. I'll get you hooked up with those two guys. They meet twice every other month. It's a Saturday morning at Say Boys, second Saturday. And then, I think the fourth Saturday, they're at Bourbon Prime in Morgantown. These are young guys opening up a business, and they work on referrals. But the really, really key point of it all is, if you want to be a member of Respected Pros, you pay a minimal fee, $75 or whatever. Guess what else you have to do?
Background check.
Drug test.
Drug test. You have to take a drug test. If you don't pass the drug test, you can't be part of our group. Hey man, I'm for that. Okay? Anything else for the good of the group? Jim, sure.
Real quick, Mike Rowe, the guy that's nationally famous for doing dirty jobs.
Yeah.
He was interviewed the other day, and he's deep in his trade school stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they were asking him about what he thought about Trump and bringing all these business in. He said, "Well, it's great." He said, "But we don't have enough people, trained people, trade people,
That's it.
to do that." Now, I was wanting your opinion on how all this billions of dollars in business coming here. How do we meet the work needs for that? How's the country meet the work needs?
Let's tackle that together. How do we meet that? What makes a person want to be a carpenter? You take away their government teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
You take away their government teeth. I hate to use that term, but they'll say that person's sucking the government teeth. And he'll do that as long as you let him or her do that. And when you make it harder for them to get that, then they're gonna say, you know what, like the insurance thing. I have a problem with, you're telling kids a couple years ago, you can stay on mom and dad's insurance till you're 26 years old.
Well, you have to be in college to get that.
Well, no.
The last I checked, it,
No.
26.
No, you're 26 years old,
Yeah.
and you
Our-
get it.
our
And then,
son-
like, since we had the luncheon here, we've been talking about homestead income tax exemption. There are people out, hang on a second, there are people out there that have no idea about that. But people will say, oh yeah, you can put your kid on insurance. Well, if your kid's on insurance, guess what happens to your insurance rate? It's gonna go up, they're gonna prepare for your kid as they get older. And the fact of the matter is that there should be a person, they can get a job that they put into the system. Right now, insurance is a nightmare. If your wife can get insurance where she works, she can't be eligible on yours. That's part of the policies now. And the insurance, the actuarial folks are looking at that saying, wait a minute, why would I insure you here for $2,000 a month when it really should be $3,500 when you can do it over here for $800? UPS did it. Now, you can say, she's not gonna take her insurance, she's gonna stay with us, and you take more out of my paycheck. Or you can say, I'm dropping out of UPS insurance, I'm going on her insurance, and you get more in your UPS paycheck. That's management. It's happening across the country because everybody's looking at how do we cut money. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, so when I lived in Arizona, I used to work with McSally a lot. And I think Arizona actually has a bill that they have to be in college to get it to 26.
That's
So
federal.
couldn't we just make a bill like that too?
That's a federal bill. Federal bill, that's Obama's,
Yeah.
what was it called, Obamacare or whatever?
Yeah.
26,
We
yeah.
just-
Now, Phil, I understand that there's a percentage of people that are riding the rail over here and getting, and you need to take their money away so that they'll get into the job market. The problem is getting into the training. You have very few accredited, say you wanna be an electrician. I'm gonna go up here to Clarksburg and join the union. And they'll put me through 5 years of apprentice school.
Apprenticeship, right.
They take 1 out of 1,000 applicants to go into that apprentice school. But the 2 apprentice schools we have in this county, North Marion and East Side, that for electricians,
Yeah.
they don't put out accredited, they only get 12 months.
Okay, hang on one second.
year.
Why would that be? Think about what he just said. Here's vocational schools, okay? And over here is high schools and colleges. Why would they not be emphasizing more what he's talking about?
Money.
I have a clue for that.
Sure.
Years ago, if you went to a vocational school, any program, building construction, electricity, or whatever, you got a credit, an art credit for graduation. The state, in their infinite wisdom, came out and said, well, to go to those classes, you no longer get that art credit for graduation.
That was
That's one of the reasons.
That was under Democratic majority that
It
came
was.
about. And guess why that happened?
And I can tell you who the superintendent of schools was, the state superintendent of schools
Go ahead.
was for that too.
Go ahead.
Kathy D'Antonio, who had connections throughout the state because her brother was a coach down at Marshall. She had a niece that needed a job, and they put in a tourism class down in the southern part of the state under vocational education, so she could have a job. It's all in people, it was all nepotism and the whole thing.
And that's
That's another
fine,
reason.
until we say, we're gonna bring in this data center, and I need 50 carpenters, and I need, 25 welders, and I need
Right.
so many 100 electricians.
Right.
Where do they come from?
Yes,
Pennsylvania?
Sure.
Ohio?
because,
We can't,
because what he said, the Democrat, up until about a year ago, if you were a master plumber in Ohio, your license wasn't recognized in West Virginia.
Right.
They did it as protectionism. We don't want you here. I'm gonna protect Sam and Joe and Fred and Frank and people that donate to my campaign, so I'm voting against it. We changed that. There's reciprocity now. But that point that you're talking about right now, every company that thinks about coming to West Virginia has that checklist. Do you have electricity? Check. Do you have water? Check. Do you have roads? Check. Do you have an educated workforce?
yeah.
And guess where they go? Where it's available. We have 3 colleges, Marshall, Fairmont State's one of the bigger, smaller colleges, and WVU, and yet as soon as we educate those kids, where are they going? Charlotte. So we gotta figure out a way to gradually get those businesses in, change that, but honestly, if I were the IBEW, or I were the Teamsters or whatever the case may be, I would want as many training programs as possible, because if I can train 15, that go out and get a job and start paying into my contribution into my fund, it's gonna be better for everybody. We don't do that. We don't do a good job of that.
Well, now Carlsberg, and I hate to give them any credit, but they have a great training center. It's not as good as the district in DC has, but they have the old school up there. It's right there off the connector, off of 50.
Yeah.
But they don't get any help from the state to increase their class capability of having more kids in there.
Have you ever heard our state school board, to Greg's point, our state school board or our county school board say, we'd like more money for our vocational technical program? Our school board over here won't even advocate or talk about that Fairmont State Aviation program for high school kids. Those kids are going up there from all over the country, and they come out of there, he just graduated 12 or 14, they're gonna make like $100,000 a year as a pilot. But they won't talk about it over here, because it nibbles into what their amount of money is. It's, when you get down into the dirt and you get into the weeds and look at this stuff, it's like, there's an organization that comes over to Fairmont State every year called Skills USA. Anybody heard of Skills USA? Greg has. Skills USA is electricians, plumbers, carpenters.
Auto mechanics.
Thank you.
Auto body.
And they bring these
Covers all
kids,
the trade schools.
they bring all these kids. Greg, tell them about it. Go ahead, please. I need a drink.
Well, they compete on the state level, and then the winners from the state level will go to the nationals. And the nationals are held in, Kansas City every year now.
Well,
But,
now, 50 years ago.
The state competitions go to different schools in the state.
You win your way up.
Yeah, not only that, they have skills, but they also have HOSA, Health Occupation Students of America also. And they're a state competition, and winners go to the national.
But-
And usually, the state does pretty good at the national.
We always do well.
50 years ago, it was called VICA,
Yeah.
from the
That's the
vocation.
same
I
thing.
went.
That's Skills USA now.
It's
Yeah.
that's what it is now?
Yeah, that's.
Well, think about this.
Vic went from Skills USA, right.
Think about this though. Right now, we typically have 35 or 40 people in here. I will guarantee you that there's maybe one or two people in this room know about Skills USA. Why would that be? As a delegate, they called me and I went over. I wandered around, I shook the kids' hands, I said, really appreciate what you're doing, so forth and so forth. They didn't tell that, it wasn't in the newspaper. They don't like it. They don't like it because it's in direct conflict with the Board of Education. Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, we also got Pierpont that you keep forgetting to bring up.
Well, I don't forget to bring Pierpont up. Pierpont's Fairmont State, and Fairmont State and Pierpont, they're together, they're apart. They're together, they're apart.
Yeah, but like First Energy will only has like a few colleges that they trust for sending their electricians to, and Pierpont's one of those. They literally, if anybody who's in New Jersey or Maryland, they send them to Fairmont here.
But why do they get them? Anybody know why they get them from Fairmont, or from New Jersey and Pennsylvania?
Not Pennsylvania, Maryland.
But I think in Pennsylvania too. We just talked
Pennsylvania
about-
has a college that they.
Yeah, but they come here too for a particular reason. They give them in-state tuition. They give them in-state tuition to get them in here. It's a great program, but the bottom line is, to what Greg said, years ago they didn't like it. They don't talk about it because it takes away funding from, because if I'm set up for the 1,200 kids in Marion County, and I got X amount of dollars for the school system, and then you say, well, of those 1,200, we're gonna move more of them over here to vocational technical school. It takes away from this group. I mean, I hate to say it because it sounds blatant, but it is, it's very good, they should be doing it. Anything for the good of the group? I love you, I'll see you all next Wednesday. Good job. Thanks.
That was a course money.
Hey, they got music down at Christmas Sports right
Not
now
good.
on Friday night. You lazy bastard.
That's why I put
Sit in the chair.
Someone said, and Greg, I mean, for the $33, I heard you say that about.
Free. But it's even free, Gary, you cheap.
No,